Ahoy and welcome back to Titanic Talkline. I am Alexia, and today I have Jaylan Salah with me, who I am really excited to talk to. Hello, how are you today?
Well, I'm good today. I'm creative, so I'm good. Finally.
You
Hello.
know, I get that. Once you finally manage to get yourself over one of those creative artist blocks or something, it's such a good feeling.
Yes, definitely.
Ugh. So I'm going to ask you the standard question, which is what I normally open with everyone on, which is, what is your Titanic story? Because everyone's is so different.
My Titanic story. Wow. Okay, so I remember clearly seeing the poster for the first time in the
Uh
newspaper. And back in the day, newspapers were a thing. There were daily newspapers, but now everybody just reads. But my dad would get the newspaper every day, and we had the
huh.
daily, we had the weekly, we had the blah, blah, blah. So I remember clearly seeing the poster and getting obsessed over it. And
Yeah.
then overnight, I'm in school. Okay, I went to a Catholic school, and it was an all
Same.
girls school. And
Same.
all the girl, okay, hello, hello, buddy, I knew it. Birds of a feather. And
Yep.
all the girls are going crazy about this movie, which I haven't seen. So I go
Yeah.
back and I tell my sister, and we kind of like nag our dad, like, Dad, we gotta see this movie, gotta get us a VCR or something. Everybody's just talking about, like, wow, there is this full cut, uncut version, there's this full, like, 5 hour version. It's crazy. There are rumors out there. And girls are so obsessed with it. And they're talking about Leo DiCaprio as if he's, like God. My sister got obsessed with, like Kate Winslet on the other side, and she was the only, I think, girl who was like, yeah, but Kate is good too. But
Yeah.
still, I remember clearly nagging dad for the VCR, and he got it to us. I think it was like without subtitles when we were so young, and even watching it in English back at the time was wild because we're
Yeah.
Egyptians and first language is Arabic. And then I
Uh,
remember seeing it on the big screen and talking about it. So for me, the first definitive moment is the newspaper. And then
mhm.
all hell broke loose, and I became obsessed.
That's fun though. I like encountering people who really remember the first instance because I know I saw the movie in theaters, but I don't have a great recollection of a bunch of it. My first personal memory of seeing Titanic was one of the most upsetting scenes for me personally was it just stuck out to me in the movie theater. I remember even in the movie theater, I just kind of froze. And it was a completely submerged room, and you see 3 seconds of a woman's body floating.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what is happening on this screen? And
Damn.
that is what I remember the most from the first time I saw that movie.
Damn. Wow. See, this is
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
I kind of like totally remember too. Like my dad was so attached to the captain that my
Yeah.
dad was so upset in the scene where the captain just locks himself in the cabinet and water
Yeah.
just poured. My dad was so devastated. Like he didn't even care. Like DiCaprio, and I'm crying, and he's like, "Man, I feel bad for the captain." So
Yeah.
I can totally relate to that.
He makes a good point, though, because I will say that from what I understand, from all accounts, historical accounts, Captain Smith was pretty involved with things up until they didn't see him again.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, obviously unfortunately there came a point where certain, testimony says, so and so was doing something, and then the last time they saw him, if I'm remembering right, a lot of accounts say the last time that both Thomas Andrews and Captain Smith were seen was when they were diving into the water off of the bridge.
Ooh. Whoa. That's wild.
That's what I have heard. So it just goes to show you that it's really interesting how fact and fiction, you being a writer, I'm sure, it's really interesting to see how I think with something like Titanic's a great example because in the movie Titanic, all of the historical characters are background characters, so you get introduced to a lot of them. But
Definitely.
yeah, they also take a lot of interesting creative liberties. No one knows exactly for sure what Captain Smith was doing in his final moments because no one lived to tell the tale.
Yeah.
We only know what we know, but it means that it's kind of quote unquote easy to be able to take advantage and portray this hard beaten, thoroughly defeated man. But who's to know if that's how I don't know. I think it's kind of a little unfair to him, maybe, where it's like I don't know if he really was active and trying to do stuff in the end, then kind of portraying him as this zombie is a little discrediting.
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I don't know what would be the route I would have taken had I written it. I mean, like for me, I would have imagined him in as a perception in my mind, but I can still see your point. You know, like I would have made him and portrayed him in a different light had I made the research. But maybe I liked it that way. It's more, like an epic moment, blah blah blah, sort of. But it's still unfair to the man. So I know what you mean.
There was a lot of survivors and surviving family members of the survivors who had issue with the particular portrayal of their relative, their descendant in the movie, and it's interesting to go back and read it because when me personally, this is just me, when I watch the movie, I don't make any moral judgments on them because I'm aware these are fictional versions of these people. Like I don't know for sure. Like no one knows exactly what these people did or didn't do.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty graceful when I watch it, but I can see where some people watch it and think that's fact.
That's the thing. And I think a lot of this too reminded me of the series Dammer, where a lot of the surviving family members were like, they were traumatized with what was portrayed and stuff like that, even if it
Mm-hmm.
was realistic or even if the victims were given voice and stuff. But still, I couldn't put myself in someone's shoes. Like maybe now I can be like, okay, I'm watching a movie detached, blah, blah, blah. But maybe if I was in someone else's shoes, I would have been the mad, crazy, or even the enraged person tweeting and writing about it. So yeah, I totally see that.
I guess it depends on how you're replayed. Like,
Yeah.
if you're replayed pretty true to yourself, and for example, let's just say, if a person exists and we make a movie out of their life and they were like an abusive alcoholic, and we make a movie that shows them as an abusive alcoholic, they might be unhappy with their portrayal because they're like, well, it's not flattering, and we'd be like, well, it's true.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of a fine line between it's true and it's like flattering and it's unflattering. And again, it's like it's just interesting when people choose to play fiction with historical characters.
And at the same time, I feel like there is this thin line. Like I would have thoughts like, what if someone wanted to make like what if one of my exes wanted to make a movie about me, okay? And I would just
Sure.
think like, wow, this one would portray me as this, like manic pixie girl. Another would portray me as this crazy woman, like this obsessed woman, this crazy one. And I would think like, wow, maybe I would have hated this version, but this was the version that this person saw at the time. So
Right.
for me, I think I just now maybe with age because I'm in my 30s, it's a different viewpoint. Like maybe in the past I would have been like liars. Why would he write? Because I know this because I had an ex who wrote a short story after our breakup, and because we socially met and blah blah blah. And he's like, I wrote a story about you, and you were a bitch in it. And when I read the
Right.
story, and it was terrible. It was terrible to say the least. Terrible, like literary wise. Haha, sorry. And at the same time, the portrayal of me was also terrible. But at the same time, now that I'm away from it, I was like, this was me in his narrative. So I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
sorry. But at the same time, it's still wild. Like you would imagine what your place is in the story or in the narrative of others, or you are not the same person, but you're a different person. Like maybe I would have made the story about this abusive alcoholic from a viewpoint of, let's say, a neighbor who this person was
Mm-hmm.
kind to at a time. So he would show an emotional side, which would make you feel like, oh, but he had a good
Yeah.
side too. Or I would have been the person abused by him, so I would make him as the monster he really was. So it is all about, I think, the place in the story or in the narrative, context wise and character wise.
You brought up Dahmer, the Netflix series, which I haven't seen, and I'm not really interested in seeing it.
You're
But
right.
I know the exact argument that you're making, which was that when the show came out, a lot of the families of the victims came forward. Were like, yeah, they didn't ask us. They didn't. We weren't involved in making all of this, and that's why it has like an unhappy sort of feeling to it. And I didn't see the show, but one of the other complaints that I saw, and this was also a complaint that they made about the Ted Bundy movie with Zac Efron,
Yeah.
was that they use these conventionally attractive guys, nice guys, Evan Peters, Zach Efron, to play these terrible people. So it brings a lot of charisma and it brings a lot of like a naturally good personality to these terrible characters, which lends a little bit of sympathy. Which on the one hand, you could make the argument that yeah, Dahmer and Bundy were people too. It's like yeah, sure, they were human beings, but the point is that they did awful, awful, awful things, and we shouldn't be trying to make any way to
at all.
juxtapose or excuse that. We should be. I mean, it's not to say that Zac Efron and Evan Peters are bad actors or that they shouldn't have been given the roles. It's just, it was a deliberate choice. I think the Illuminati, who's a blogger, a YouTuber I like to watch, I think she brings up the point that it's a deliberate choice to have attractive, young actors play these deplorable roles.
I know, I can feel it too. Because sometimes I feel like they're glamorizing it in a way, and I don't know. I
Yes.
watch this stuff just to hate on it, honestly. But for me, the idea of glamorizing a serial killer is the least thing that we need right now. Like, even
Yeah.
fetishizing, the idea and the hunt, and the way he is just taking these people and terrorizing them. I feel like we've had enough of that crap, if you ask me.
I feel like someone could have told that story through the use of the victims. Like, I don't know how many I can't remember exactly how many victims like Ted Bundy or Dahmer had, but if I were making a TV show, say about a serial killer who had 10 victims, I would make a 10 episode show, each one about the life of a victim.
I know what you mean. Yeah. I would
And
have
that way
made
we
a
can,
fictional,
yeah,
I was obsessed at the time by making a show about, like a kidnapping victim aftermath. Like, I always feel like, okay, we just you show us all the crap, you show us all the hurt, you show us all the pain, and you show us how sadistic the other person is, and just, like, it puts it in a very position of power where you're just frustrated at this person who's usually male, but I really don't care about watching that anymore. What I want to see is someone living after that, surviving it and living, and how this affects him, and how they
yeah,
go through different curves of, ups and downs, and like dark moments, and what makes them hold on to life. So for me, I'm just waiting for this to be made, obviously, and I just can't wait to see it. But I can't. But watching another serial killer, like the fictionalized life, and I think people have heuristic, like curiosity to just watch what this person made, because it's something that is foreign to a lot of us, and because people, I think, lives are boring, so we just want to watch something that is so exotic that would make us feel safe too in our seats and stuff. So yeah, for me, I'm done with these. What I want to see is something else, something told from a viewpoint of someone who had been at the edge of danger or at the forest end and then came back.
did you see the documentary series on Netflix called Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey?
No, what is this? Tell me.
It's really good. I don't know exactly which countries it's definitely available in the United States, but
Yeah.
it follows women who, and men who escaped from, holy crap, this guy's name, the Warren Jeffs and the FLDS polygamous, super polygamous cult, and it
Oh,
follows people who were able to get out, and it's told through their stories. The
I
people
have to
who,
watch this.
former members, people who ran away, people who eventually just decided enough was enough. So they tell the story through their experiences, and so it's really well done. It's told through their lens, and it's an insane,
I have to watch this.
crazy story of just, again, like, unchecked male power just dominating over these people.
I have to watch it. Thank you for telling me. This is
It's
amazing
really good.
recommendation. Wonderful.
It's interesting because it takes place reasonably modern. I mean, obviously some of the footage is from older times, but I think it was made in like 2020, 2021 or something like that.
Okay.
And it's interesting to see some of the behaviors and patterns and the things that were being drilled into these young women there are just so archaic by our current standards,
Yeah.
and yet just routine, matter of fact. Of course you're not supposed to speak when there's men speaking. Why would you do that? You're a woman, be quiet.
Yeah.
Silence.
And you shouldn't act like that, because they would find
See,
you're
yeah,
acting manly. You're
like,
unattractive to men and stuff like that.
exactly, seen and not heard.
Yeah, and just, maybe you're too stubborn, maybe you're too hard, maybe you're too
Tone it down.
opinionated. Yeah, this is the thing. So for me, I mean, because I've been in relationships like that, where I
Mm-hmm.
kind of like downgraded myself for the man. I made myself stupid for the man. I became more vulnerable for the man. Now maybe I'm having this overt aggressive attitude where I'm like, okay, no bullshit. This is just me. You take it or leave it, baby. So kind of like, yeah, so probably why I'm staying single and happy for the moment.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I was talking to my mom about this the other day because I was just thinking of the narrative that was presented to me, especially when I was in high school and college.
Yeah.
And I was in high school and I was in college, especially during the time of the peak of America's Next Top Model, during these plastic surgery reality TV shows, during dating competitive reality shows.
Oh.
So what was being presented to us was you need plastic surgery, you need to be in a relationship, you need to be beautiful and thin, otherwise you are not valuable. And if you're not beautiful, you won't be in a relationship. And if you're not in a relationship, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Obviously you're ugly. You should fix yourself. And it was this round robin of horrible messaging for every direction. This was movies. This was, you remember all those rom-coms in the 2000s?
Yeah.
She's the man, she's all that. What are the other ones with a bunch of makeovers? 10 Things I Hate About You, like all these
Yeah.
things I can't remember the name of.
And he's the one
And
who
it was,
tamed her. Like, I loved her
yeah,
before he fucking tamed her. You know what I mean? Like, wow, he
yeah.
made her boring. Yeah, I know what
But
you
the,
mean. It was terrible.
yeah, so the whole point of the media around that time, especially when I was growing up, was like, this is what you need. You need to look like this so you can get a man. It was all about
It was
that
all
end.
about getting the man at the end. You know, like it was
Yes.
the prize. It was
Yes.
there at the top of the mountain. So you had to do whatever it takes to just get to the peak.
Exactly.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. And it's still, this narrative still sticks around, unfortunately, now, because now I'm viewed like as a black sheep. Because all my younger cousins, for example, are getting engaged, and they're all like, oh, and they're talking to me about like, like biological clock and about, like womanhood, about losing your fertility and stuff like that. So I can see it's a very toxic narrative to live by. But I think you just have to take the hard way and, I don't know, pick something. I hope my dad's
You,
voice didn't.
I don't care. I
Yeah.
actually think it adds flavor. I keep everything in my
He's a
episodes.
sliverish kind of guy. Okay,
Oh
let's
my gosh,
do
I
it.
keep everything. There was an episode where I fully muted a guest in the middle of his answer because I thought I was muting myself, and then I just swore so loudly that I capped my audio. Like, it's this very pleasant British man answering a question, and all of a sudden you hear "fuck," and it's just like, that's not what's supposed to happen. But it's real life.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I totally understand. This is a terrible narrative that we all went through, but I feel like I don't know. You just take the hard route. You take it the hard way by trying to deviate from it. So what did you do? What did you do to cope?
Honestly, I think I hate my answer because my answer is I was born the way that I am. Like, I am neurodivergent. I am also under the asexual umbrella somewhere. Demisexual is a technical term, but like, I never got distracted by them simply because they were not. I was not born with those interests in that way,
Yeah,
and it's not like, oh, look at me, I'm so special or anything. It's just like, it just completely missed me, and in one way, it's
totally.
good. It's like, cool. I wasn't ever distracted by like boys or blah blah blah. But on the
Yeah,
other hand, it means that an experience that I'd say 99% of people go through,
yeah.
I did not.
I totally
And it's
understand.
really hard. It's funny because I talk to people all the time where I'm like, for this might sound like it's unrelated, but I don't need a sexual partner. I know a lot of people who are very sexually motivated, even if they're not in
Yeah,
relationships, they want to have that. And I understand that. That is, I get it, but I don't get it. That's not me. I
yeah,
could
yeah,
gladly go, and I gladly went for years, decades alone, and that just was fine with me. And I run into people who will say things like, oh my gosh, I wish I was more like you, it would be
yeah,
so much easier. And it's like, compared to your current situation, which is that you are going without and you're mad about it, yes,
yeah.
it would be easier than that. However, it is not easier because it literally means that you're so far outside of the common experience that it's just like,
I totally know what you
it,
mean. Yeah.
it might be nice to know what the room was talking about.
I get it. I get it. Yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. It's always, I don't know, it's always, I hate it so much when someone just says, like, man, I wish I could be like, because I don't know, like, do you want to be like me? I don't know. Like
Yeah.
for me, it's like, okay, like I've had a lot of people who are like, wow, I'm so happy you were sheltered from this experience, from that experience. I wish I would, but you didn't know also what was the price, what was the cost, what was the
Hmm.
situation itself. So for me, I don't know. I try not to wish being in other people's shoes or them wishing on me. So yeah,
if I do that, I try to make it about something specific. Like if what I
Yeah.
mean, like if I'm like, oh, I wish that I could dance like you can. Like I try
Yeah,
not to be, I
something
wish I
like
could be you, because that's not what I mean to say. What I really
yeah.
mean to say is, I wish I could do this thing or be that way like you. I try to be specific because you're right. It makes me uncomfortable. I've had people say, I wish I could be more like you. I'm like, ooh, do ya?
I know. It just I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me at least. Like really, you want to be good? Come here.
You
Like
should be your you should always be your own person. And I know this starts getting into like love yourself, preachy preachy, but like that
oh
what I'm
fuck.
not that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that, like May's father says in Turning Red, people have all kinds of sides to them, and some of them are messy. And you never have to dedicate yourself to being just one thing or one aspect of yourself. Like you should be free to.
Wow, you got me into this awesome situation where I got so frustrated. Like I was with this friend, she had an overeating problem, okay, an eating
Oh,
disorder. And I had a time where I got so depressed, I kind of like didn't eat, and that affected my health like drastically. And she saw me, she's like, "Oh my God, you lost a lot of weight." And I was like, "Yeah, I was depressed after that breakup with this guy, and I didn't eat
mm-hmm.
for like months." So she's like, "Man, you're so lucky." And I'm like, honey, I'm not lucky. My blood sugar level went to
That's
an
not what you meant to
extremely low.
say.
And this is the thing, yeah, like it went to an extremely low that I had to be transferred somewhere else. And I got a lot of problems, a lot of shit and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, just to think of it, like, I know your pain, I know what you're going through, but I'm not lucky by any means. And it wasn't a good time. Yes, I look slimmer by
Mm.
terms, but deep down, I'm kind of like screwed. You know what I mean? So, I totally understand. I just hate it when people do this. I'm sorry.
I
I
had
can't.
No, I had the exact same thing happen to me. So I used to live in an apartment complex. So you see, even if you don't know your neighbors, you just see them because
Yeah.
you live in the same flipping building. Like there's no
Hello.
way
Yeah.
around it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I started taking two things happened. One, I had a horrible breakup, and two, I started taking medication for my ADHD, which is
Yeah.
stimulants.
Yeah.
So I dropped 50 pounds,
See.
which is a lot, and I
Definitely.
knew it too. And people would in the apartment building would start stopping me and being like, "What's your secret?" And I just started answering them honestly. I was like, I started taking mental health medication and I went through a horrible breakup, and they just stared at me like I was crazy. But like, you asked a pretty invasive question there, friend.
This is the thing. I always go for the truth, and people just don't like it, or they just feel like, oh, but it's not that bad. Like, okay, whatever you
I think
say.
it's this very human tendency to try to silver line things. I personally think it's a defense mechanism. Like someone says something that makes you uncomfortable, and your instinct is to be like, oh no, they're sad, make them feel better. Like my leg is hurting, and your first instinct is to be like, oh no, I wanted to. How do I make
Yeah.
it? How bad is it? It's not that bad, is it? Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. And it's like you don't want to be mad at people because you can tell they're trying to make you feel better,
Exactly.
but it's like you're kind of making me feel worse. And
This is the thing.
uh,
You can't just let it go away. So just be there. This is why I kind of like try to be even more mature in the way I give support to others and in the way I
mm,
accept the support, because I like it when a lot of people just say they want to comfort you and they're like, I have no idea what it feels like to be you. I totally don't know how you're feeling, but I'm there for you. But I'm sending positivity and love and whatever. This is just, it gives me a blanket, like someone is
mhm.
acknowledging that your struggle is just different and harder or whatever, but at the same time they're sending you positivity in a way, or light or whatever they just want to send.
There's a bit by Brene Brown that's been animated and put on YouTube that I really, really love about sympathy versus empathy. And it kind of explains the difference between, if you're having, or if you have someone's having a hard time, the
Yeah.
difference between someone who, does a silver lining thing or tries to fix it or whatever, they're not acknowledging the fact that you're currently in pain. And then they acknowledge that sometimes it's not even about fixing the problem, it's about acknowledging the discomfort, and that all you
Definitely.
need is someone who's willing to kind of sit there with you
Yeah.
a little bit. And even if the intention is good, even if the intention is like, hey, I'm really just trying to make you feel better, here, let's go for chocolate, let's go to see a movie, all these things, I'm trying. And even if it's coming out of a good place, sometimes all you need is for someone to be like, hey, I know that things are really hard right now, and you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but I'm here for you, and I want to help you, so just let me know how I can do that.
Yeah. Definitely. Wow, this is so good, so powerful.
I can't claim this all for myself. I did several years of volunteer work with um, a suicide prevention hotline and chat line for queer youth here in the States. And a major part of our initial training was genuinely understanding that difference between empathy and sympathy, so that when someone comes to you with a problem, a very serious problem, they're calling in or typing into a hotline. They don't want someone who's going to say, well, at least you're only hurting yourself and you're not actually trying to kill yourself. Like that, no. That's the
Definitely.
wrong response. And even if that's coming from your friends who are like, well, at least we're not there yet.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not
It
the
even makes
acknowledged.
it
It's
worse
exactly.
because I've been there, like because I think I've been like talking to someone like about the dark times, the depression times when I was like borderline on suicide. And I think I remember she just commented on how pretty I looked and like it doesn't show. And I was like, man, you should have seen my photos during that time.
Sorry,
Honestly,
sorry.
she even saw me like I was looking worse than when if she had seen my pictures during that dark depressive borderline suicide phase, she would have said I was stunning. I was at
Wow.
my peak that time. I was taking care of myself like you have no idea. My hair was always
Yeah.
great, all the so what are you talking about, babe? What are you talking about, love? Like, have do you even know what depressed people, deeply depressed people, borderline suicide look like? They look like you and I. Like, how does it show? Should I go this? Should I go crazy? Like, what did you expect
Right.
me to look like after going through a very dark time in my life? So you look great. It doesn't show.
I mean,
Thanks,
like,
mate.
not to go back to Titanic for a second, like, up until we see her sprinting to the end of the boat, Rose looks beautiful, put together,
Quas.
stunning. She looks like she's in charge of herself, even when people are taking charge. She gives Cal sassy little grins,
Yes.
smokes at the table, she's rolling her. She does not look. If I were a servant, if I were a maid who was just in the first class and let's just say she had jumped and they
Yeah.
came to take my statement, they'd be like, hey, did you notice anything? Be like, no,
Never.
nothing.
Wow. At all.
The only thing anyone would have noticed was when she was sprinting down the hallway. That's when they had their chance to notice something was wrong. But
Oh,
it's
well,
like
definitely.
up until that point, there was no sign that she was ready to fling herself into some propellers.
And look at what her narration was when you got inside her mind. Like I was standing at the edge of the precipice. She was boiling
Mm-hmm.
inside, and she kept her composure and acted like a good girl, like she was raised like a lady. And she was even giving, exactly what you said, the sassy remarks, like, "Oh, the Titanic, it's not that big." So she's even acting the part to a T. And at the same time, this woman was on the verge of a nervous breakdown already. So hello. So for me, I mean, I find these comments sometimes insulting and sometimes hilarious, but they help me with my, like cynical side. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
really? You like me now? You think it doesn't show? You should have seen me when it was bad. It never showed, baby.
It's it is really hard. I've talked about it on the show. I have my own mental illnesses. It's funny depending on who I talk to. The diagnosis is different, and that's not meant to be dismissive. It's meant to be like mental health exists kind of on a spectrum, and there's
Definitely.
all sorts of things. And in the way that
Yeah.
it is on a spectrum, there's going to be days when you're great, days when you think you own the world. Like something bad happens to you, you're like, who cares? Like this is below me. Lost
Yeah,
my
this is
job,
the
no
boss.
problem. Right,
Yeah,
like
this is the
10,
boss
10-year
B.
fiance broke up with me, took the kids and the dog, whatever. That was an ugly dog anyway. There's some days when you're just like, sorry, running it.
Lovely. I love this one.
Right. But there's some days when you're like that,
Yeah.
when you've got it all together, and then you
Yeah.
can wake up the next day and all you want is that dog back. You hate yourself. The dress you thought you looked great in, no, you didn't. You saw a photo of yourself, and all of a sudden, my stomach looked terrible. I wasn't smiling. I was scowling all day. I don't want to do this anymore. I can't. And it is such a diametric opposition it can be difficult for people to understand who have never experienced it. And for those who have never experienced it, I pray that you and hope that you never do, because that's not meant to be sarcastic. Like, it sucks. I really hope it never
Yeah.
happens to you. I
Exactly.
hope not.
Seriously, no, never. Oh my god, I wouldn't wish it for even my
No,
worst enemy because the
no.
things I've been with, it's as if I was on the Titanic. when it was like flipping. There were times when I would be like on the top and then straight to the bottom and then backwards.
Yeah.
Like, this phone just needs to be silent. Or I'm trying to tell anyone of my family to just silence the phone, but nobody even cares. They're like, yeah, just let it ring. Yeah, let it ruin your podcast experience. I want
I
to
don't
kill
think
everyone.
I don't think I've had the volume up on my phone for like 5 years.
Me too, but my personal phone. But like the the family phone is like that, and you feel like, wow, home phones are dead, baby. There's no landline anymore.
We don't. I don't think we don't have a family phone. We don't have. I think I.
You
Okay.
guys are not.
In my parents' house, there is one landline, and guess what gets ignored every day?
It is ignored, of course, until one of my parents is like, "Won't anybody just answer the phone? You guys answer it and kiss you goodbye." You guys are
I.
good.
I'm a little addicted to my cell phone, but I'm better than I used to be. Now, if I like misplace it or lose it, I'm not like ah! I can handle myself for a couple of seconds.
Good, good. So, okay, like the ultimate question is, are you a
Okay.
Rose or a Jack? Like, because for
Personally,
me, my sister, yeah, like for me, my sister was obsessed with Rose. And like every single girl I knew at the time, we were all obsessed with Jack. My sister liked Jack, okay, but she felt like Rose is good, and she would just buy, like they had all these amazing promotional photos sold back then, and like stickers and stuff. And my sister would insist on getting, and back then I was like the teenager who had a major crush on Leo DiCaprio, and I would be like, yeah, and
I
I
got
feel
you.
competitive with Rose, and I tell her like just keep the photos away, and she's like, no, she's great. You're gonna love her. She's a great female character. And over time, I began to really, really appreciate Rose for what she is. So,
Yeah,
what about you back then when Titanic first came out? What were you? Whose side were
I
you on?
really, I really liked Rose. I
Wow,
liked
my
that
sister would love
she.
you.
Well, so I am and always have been. I could ask my, could drag my mother in here and ask her, like, was I a sassy, talky, difficult to deal with child? Yes, would have been the answer. So, because
Yeah,
I resonated with the person who speaks out at lunch and doesn't want to do what they're told and is like, nope, get away. I don't want to be touched right now. Leave me alone. Nope, I want to stand out here on my balcony and look broody without you. Leave me.
yeah,
I
yeah.
liked that, and then I also liked that when she met Jack, because again, like I said, I found out later that I'm on the demisexual side of things, but I
Definitely.
liked that their relationship didn't immediately start out being super affectionate and gross and weird, and that he was nice to her
Yeah,
in a
exactly. He
real
was.
way.
Definitely. He is. He was. Yeah. Like for me, I think we saw a lot of things from Rose's point of view, but I think if we would have seen it from Jack's point of view, we would have seen her as this, like big figure. Like he looked up to her. Like she was something to him, not just because she was rich. I think because he valued her so much, and it
Hmm.
could tell. I mean, like, wow, I loved it.
Yeah, he could tell that she was, smart and that she had her own opinions and that she had interests that were outside of people normally in her societal class. She wanted to see the world, not
Yeah.
just tour it.
Definitely, definitely. And she was such an interesting character. She was like, she had fire, which she saw in her when she was down with him, down, like dancing and stuff like that in third class, which is why I think there's this particular scene that I love prior
Mm-hmm.
to the I'm flying scene, where he just tells her that they are gonna trap you and this fire inside you that I see in your eyes, it's gonna burn out. And I love this scene even more than more of the Gronder scene because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's such a speech when you say it to
Yeah.
someone because I think I've had people like tell me certain things like that and I would have said it to a friend too like I don't want them to take this away from you when you see like them going through a relationship that you don't like or just being forced by family or whatever so to conform or whatever so yeah I like that too.
Has that ever worked for you? Because I've said this to friends and I know people have said it to me. And I'm asking genuinely, not like has that ever worked for you, but like, have you managed to ever have a conversation with somebody genuinely, seriously, or somebody with you,
Yeah.
where they've expressed to you that, or you to them, that they're, you're with someone, or you're doing a job, or whatever it is, you're doing something that is fundamentally taking away a part of who you are, and I'm worried about you.
Yeah, my sister. I was in this terrible relationship where I would just every guy I loved would just be mean to me and just, like treat me badly. So I would go to a person who would just instill themselves in your life as, like a supportive friend. I don't want anything from you. I'm just there for you. But you
Yeah.
can feel them poisoning your life slowly. So you would just be vulnerable and just hate yourself. So you're just, okay, let's just date or be boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever. And
Hmm.
my sister once kind of like confronted me, like, okay, I'm gonna see this phone. Just a minute.
Sure. Take this time to check my own phone.
Oh my gosh. Did you hear my did I sound when I'm talking in Arabic? I mean like it's out there. Did you
I
hear
couldn't
it?
hear it.
Thank
Nope,
God.
I
Oh,
heard
because
I
I was
heard
like
rustling and then more rustling.
okay,
That's
awesome.
it.
So wrestling is over now.
The wrestling is over.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so she just told me, like, please take the phone. Please take the phone from here. I don't want to hear it. Okay, because for me, I'm gonna break this phone. I think I'm gonna look like a crazy one in this episode, and I love it so much.
I
So
look
for
like a
me,
crazy woman in every episode, so you're good.
awesome.
I told the Lincoln Park story a few weeks ago. Like, people are losing their respect for me fast.
So for me, yeah. So just this person, he was. Everybody could see that he was bad for me, and everybody would see that the relationship was just dragging me down. But I was just, like moving on and just pushing through it, and I'm gonna make it work, and I'm gonna make it work. So my sister once confronted me, and she gave me, like the talk. She's like, "You're being a hypocrite." Like a lot of girls we used to talk about before, complain about before. Like, you're being a hypocrite. Why are you doing this to yourself? You don't even love him. You don't even feel for him. So,
Right.
like, why are you doing this? Why
Why?
do you keep doing it? So, yeah, but I didn't break up with him, of course, at the time. And even ended at the time. But her words stuck to my head that when it ended, ugly, really,
Eh.
I kind of told her, like, I know the place that you were talking from. Yes, I didn't take action because it had to come from me. It had to be genuine. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, I just felt like I can still remember this talk. I can still remember
Yeah.
your concern.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it was, like I seriously remember this situation because it was something. I don't know. I hate it when you just put yourself through something that feels so unlike you and you keep
Mm-hmm.
dragging yourself through it. So when she just said that and she just told me, like, this is not you, you're being like all the girls you used to just talk about before and just, like, complain about or just say stuff about. So
Mm-hmm.
why are you doing this? I don't feel. And we were just getting so serious also, almost
Yeah.
thinking about engagement. So I think this is why she was
Wow.
scared. She was like, are you
Yeah.
sure you want to take this to the next step? This is why I think she intervened. So yeah, I'm still grateful for this talk to the day.
You go, sister. I that's such a good story though, and the reason it seems like it worked too is because it sounds like you kind of were open to hearing that from her.
Yeah, yeah. I am. Well, I am definitely open to hearing stuff, but just from people I trust. Back in the day, I think the
Sure.
noise was too much. Like, I would let anybody just talk to me because I would talk to a lot of people, even people I wasn't interested in knowing
Right,
on a
right.
deeper level. But now I think people that I really trust, I would just talk to them like really introspectively and just listen to what they had to say and then maybe put it in context or see where that takes me. So yeah, I think I'm always open to listening to stuff from her and from my
Hmm.
mother too. Like, they're the closest people to me.
Yeah, from the people that actually matter. Because,
Yeah,
like you said in that scene that you said you really liked, the reason that eventually Jack's words work on Rose is because she was already getting there herself. She saw a way out with him. she saw, here's this guy who's saying, "Oh, that silly dream you have of going to ride a wooden roller coaster is like, I'll take you. Let's go
Yeah,
do something." And if she'd told, anyone else in her life, they probably would have been like, "Don't be absurd. Why would you go to a roller coaster?" Like
this
they
imagine
almost
her mother.
understand. Right. Like, and I
I
can see
hate her
where
mother so much.
yeah, and I'm betting you if she just told Cal, like, I want to go to Coney Island, take me to Coney Island, he'd probably do it, but be like, I don't understand why we're here. He'd just be doing
Exactly,
it
and just
because he,
complain about the dirt and stuff and the weather
right,
and people. Yeah.
exactly. But, she talks to this guy who hears her dream and not only says it's not a silly dream, but it's a thing that can happen for real. So she starts imagining her life, and then she goes and dances with him, and it seems it's like she saw a look through a window to what it was. And I
What
think
life
that then
was
when
beyond
he,
her borders.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then he has this talk with her that's like, all those things I like about you, if you walk away from that window, it's going to go away. And she decided to go ahead and step out.
And by the way, that's kind of true because this is what happened to me later on. I was in a relationship where I was gaslit for 3 years with a
Jeez.
partner who constantly, like, I think they took away from me every single thing that I
Mm-hmm.
loved. So my character wasn't even like if you had talked to me during this time, you would have seen someone else, a woman who is so concerned with being listened to as a good woman, or like an acceptable, like docile, calm, blah blah blah, whatever. So for me, I think every single thing that I did was ridiculed, or just like every single accomplishment was like, but is it enough? So I kind of like gave up everything that I loved and
Mm-hmm.
stung or clung to everything that I hated, like a formal job, this stable relationship, stable friendships, uh, kind of like aesthetics about women that I hated so much. So yeah, had she taken the Cal road, she would have been another version of her mother. And that, I
Mm-hmm.
think, to Jack, even if he didn't end up with her at the end, it would have broken his heart to just see her into this woman who is not true to herself. So yeah.
At the end of the day, what I like about their relationship is that at the end, not just the end, but like when they're really getting to know each other, it's about authenticity. Like, outside of the, like, he didn't tell her that he'd stolen the coat, for example, but that's more of a lie of omission where didn't bring it up. But it's the sort of thing where he doesn't lie and be like, I have money. He's like, I have nothing. This is
Yeah.
my life. And she doesn't lie to him. She's like, I'm engaged. This is my life.
Yeah, exactly.
And it
I
brings you
know
both
nothing
on the
about the
same
world.
page.
Yeah. But okay,
Yeah,
let me ask you this question because I ask it to
sure.
everybody.
Yeah.
If the ship didn't sink and they ended up together, do you think they would have survived? I think they would have had divorce. I think he would beat her. Like, I think this fantasy would just, I don't know, this is me. She would have been daring and brave, and she would have gone to do adventures and stuff because this relationship would make her the strong woman she was, but I don't think they would survive. I think what they had also was just fueled by the beautiful fantasy of being stuck on this ship. But had they set foot, yeah, they would have done all the great things they said they were doing, but I don't think they would survive, you know?
I disagree, and I think it's because they are dissimilar enough to keep each other on track. They don't
Good,
agree on
awesome.
everything. So it
Hmm.
wouldn't be one of those things where he's just her yes man or she's just his yes man and they're constantly getting into problems because no one can say no. I
Yeah,
think they have that healthy communication where if he's like, let's do a thing, she could be like, I don't want to do that, or like, we can't do that. But on
wow.
the other hand, I think that they're both open minded enough where if he came up with an idea and if it were feasible, she'd be like, yeah, let's go do it. So I think they do it. I think they have the communication to be successful. If they
Good.
do have problems, they could talk them through. I also think that they're both really young, 17 and 20. I'm
Yeah,
thinking in 5 years will be 25 and 22. And, women mature pretty quickly, faster than men. So,
definitely.
like, by the time they're both in their 20s, they could also, he could be a little less hee about things. He might have
Yeah,
become more serious. They might have a plan, or by then, because she eventually does get married and has
definitely.
children. So she wanted some quote unquote traditional things of life. I think they could have made it work. And I think it's because they started on an extremely unusually honest basis.
Yeah,
So
wow.
there
I
was
like
really no secrets to hide. And a lot of breakdowns in relationships come from miscommunication, and they have
that's
that.
true. That's true. That's true.
Also,
Wow,
they
I love
trauma
this
bonded
angle.
like hell over if he survived surviving a sinking Titanic. So there are two reasons. It may have been a slightly codependent relationship
Yeah, I
because
think
it literally would have been a no one understands this experience of my
definitely.
life. So
Yeah,
this is
of
my
course.
opinion. I think they would have made it. I actually think they would have had
Wow.
a good and healthy life, but I don't think it would have been without difficulties. I think there would have been hardships and
Should
major, like the
be.
depression and the war and everything coming up. There would have been a lot to traverse, but I
But they
think they
will
would have done
stick
it.
together. It will make them. Wow, I
I
love this angle
think
so much.
so. This is me. This is from me, a normal pessimist. I'm being uncharacteristically optimistic. It feels weird.
I'm a pessimist, which is why I thought, wow, maybe Alexia is an optimist that I didn't know. Haha. Okay, maybe she
No,
can
I'm
get it.
not.
Wow.
I'm trying to
Okay.
be realistic
Yeah.
because I am aware of the power of going through like an insane experience like that together. There is a lot that can happen. I mean, on the other hand, it could have split them up, but again, I think because they have that base of communication, and now that she's chosen to leave without her family, there is a little codependency. She kind of needs a little help navigating,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Exactly.
he might need a little bit of her charm and her know-how. She's a charming woman, so I think they would have made it
Exactly.
work. But who knows? There was
Lovely.
also so many other things that happened in the world that anything could have, a lot of stuff could have happened.
Broken it apart. I know what you mean. Yeah. So, what do you think
Mhm.
of Revolutionary Road? Do you think it's like a reminisce on it or a way? Because I felt like it wasn't just Kate and Leo uniting after years. For me, I felt like they were still having this Titanic cloud over them while they were making this movie. This is what I felt.
I don't. I've never actually looked into this
I don't
at
know.
all.
Because for me,
I
it
googled
felt
it.
weird. It felt like, yeah. You have never seen Revolutionary Road? Are you serious, man? You
I
have
just
to
googled
watch
it.
it.
This is
You
the
have
first thing
to
I'm.
watch it,
Yeah,
please.
yeah. I'm reading from an
Oh,
article on republicworld.com. It says after winning the hearts of many fans, the iconic romantic movie Titanic, lead actors Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet came together for another film titled Revolutionary Road more than a decade later. The film was an adaptation of Richard Yates' novel of the same name. The movie was nominated for numerous awards. What?
you
What
have to watch it,
is
please. Yes.
this?
I'm begging you. You have
This
to.
is very funny. Oh, is this like weird, or is this a thing, something else I'm talking about, where it turns out he like accidentally survived the war or something?
I think it's like, I don't know. It's a weird movie. It's like I just felt it. It felt like 20 years later or something. So I don't know. I have to have your take on that one. You have to just watch it and tell me because I felt
So
for me
it's
like it wasn't totally detached from their past, both as Kate and Leo and both as like Jack and Rose. For me, this is what it felt like watching it.
Yeah, it says
Like
here that I mean it's
shit,
supposed to be a completely separate film and it's a separate story, but it says that there's a lot of
definitely. And I even read the novel
parallels.
because I was so obsessed with it. But what it felt for me, what the vibe that I got from, is just I don't know. I felt like the Titanic cloud kind of haunted the set or
It's
whatever.
interesting because I think if they had been in a different romantic film together that wasn't centered around that plot, it wouldn't have drawn the parallels. Like if for example, if they had been the leads in like, why can't I think of a single romance film in the past 10 freaking years now? Like if they'd been the leads, oh, they're too old for it, but if they'd been in something like Pitch Perfect, something with
Wow.
no relation to the Titanic plot, a totally separate plot, it would have been easier. And if they played obviously separate characters that had like, if instead of being another unhappy woman in an arranged marriage that I just read, contemplating suicide, if she was like plucky owner of a small, like, oh my gosh, if they had put them both in a Hallmark Christmas film, it would have been really different.
Different,
Like if she
totally.
was, yeah, she's the high-powered woman, goes home to small town and meets lumberjack. Like that,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have drawn the parallels because they would have been totally like he would have been like, "Well, howdy, ma'am," and she would have been like,
Yeah.
"You are not businessy enough for me, sir." It would have been a different movie. But I think based on what you're telling
Definitely.
me, it's like this is supposed to be a separate movie. That's the plot of Titanic without the ship.
Definitely. This is what it
Excellent.
totally felt for me. I loved it. I loved it for that reason, but I felt like, wow, you guys are haunted. You guys are haunted by this ship. Even in
It's an
that movie,
iconic
you guys
pairing.
separate. Definitely.
Well, it
I
would
mean,
be
the
like if
power.
we brought back Ron, Harry, and Hermione's actors, Rupert Grint, Daniel, oh my God, I forget his last name, Radcliffe, and Emma
Radcliffe, yeah.
Watson. Yeah, if we brought them back as the new Charlie's Angels,
You would feel that, wow, the Harry Potter is just haunting you guys.
yep,
whatever you're
they're
doing.
doing something it would be I think it's the same thing where it's like you can never play a couple without being compared to that. Like the three of them can never be a trio
It's so
without
hard.
being
Yeah.
compared.
It's there in
It's
kind of like your psyche in pop culture forever cemented. And this is what I feel
mhm.
like with Austin Butler too. Like he will always be this Elvis. Like even when he does
Oh
more
yeah,
roles, I feel like he will be haunted by Elvis
I
character
haven't seen
forever.
that yet. I hear it's good.
It is. It is depending on how you see it. So also I'm gonna
Fair.
have to hear what you have to say on it too because I really loved it. But probably
I'm
because I
not a
really loved him in the role.
I was gonna say I'm not a big Elvis person, so that's why I haven't quite gotten on it. And but it's one of those things where I'm like, oh yeah, I keep meaning to watch that, and then I don't.
I know what you mean, but it's good for him because of him. It works because of him, honestly, because he's so charming. He has
Yeah.
this haunted quality about him too, which reminds you of this era of actors like Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise and Leo and young Johnny Depp and stuff. It kind of like diminished this Hollywood star power. It kind of diminished over the years. So to see it again in action and from a different age now, like now in my 30s, and these guys were there when I was in my teens. So woohoo! So I don't know. It felt good.
Oh yeah, no, I want to watch. I just haven't seen it, but I do like. Speaking of like musician biopics, did you see the movie Rocket Man about Elton John?
Elton John, no, I haven't seen it. Is it good?
It's really good. I liked it a lot. And
Yeah,
Taron Egerton is very good as young
I have to
Elton.
watch it. Wow,
It's
I
good.
have to watch it.
I like the way it was shot because it's done like a musical, but it has some elements of like stage production to it, so it's very
I
neat.
love. Yeah. Wow, I gotta watch it. Good recommendation.
Yeah, it's a really good one. It's a few years old now, but I think it's on a couple streaming things. I liked it
Yeah, I can always find it. Awesome. I'll have to watch it.
for sure. Well, I don't. We're getting to the end of my time with you, but was there anything else that you wanted to ask or say or?
It's just that I really love that after all these years, I can talk about this movie and still talk about it in a fresh way. I feel this is what
Mm-hmm.
real art is, regardless of whatever you see it on the spectrum of things. Because if something gets stale and you can't even talk about it and it's redundant and whatever, but if something just ignites a certain fire of you and gives you inspiration in different ways, I think it works. This is art.
Yeah,
So I'm
it
just
is, and
glad.
I am too, and it's amazing to see the rest of the people with an interest in Titanic start making not just podcasts, but all the incredible art and reading the books and seeing the projects people make. It's really neat to see a passion continue to be ignited, whether it's from the film or not.
Definitely, definitely,
Oh, are you
definitely.
planning on seeing? I don't know where you are, but are you planning on seeing the movie when they do the re-release in theaters in February?
I hope so. I hope they release it here. If they do, of course I will. Of course.
Do you think they may not? I have no idea what film like rights are like.
I don't know if this happens. They might or might not. But if I go, I'll just give you a short video and I'll like give a shout out to my favorite girl, Titanic Talkline. Look where I am right now.
I hope they bring it there because again, I mean,
I
it's a
hope so.
25-year-old movie, but it's like when they bring back old classics to the theaters.
I
There is
know.
such a different experience on the screen.
Definitely. And you're a different person. And I want to know how I'm going to see it. Am I going to see it with a fresh eye and a fresh heart or just feel like, man, I'm old? Shit. So I'm just waiting.
I bet you that anything, my experience is going to be movie theater seats are so uncomfortable.
Oh, yes.
That's going to
Yes.
be my complaint. It's like, how'd you like the movie? I'm like, well, my butt hurt. Like, I don't know. It's not my couch at home.
This is awesome. Maybe I'll sleep. I'm afraid now that if I go to a movie theater and it's so warm and dark, I'll just sleep because I'm so tired. Man, it's different from in the past when I would be like, oh man, I'm in the movie theater. Oh, look at me. Look at the popcorn. Look at the people.
Oh my god, I haven't been to a movie theater since 2019.
I haven't been to since a long time too. I think like, yeah, I don't think I've been since COVID. No.
I don't want to wear a mask for an entire movie. That seems awful.
Yeah, I went to music concert and it was depressing. And I had to wear
Yeah,
the
it can
face
be
mask
hard.
all the time. It would be like, ugh. I love the music, but it was just not good for me.
Yeah, I went to see a live podcast and I wore my mask the whole time. Not everyone did, but it was kind of like I just spent a lot of my time fiddling with it because I was like, it's uncomfortable. I don't want to wear this anymore.
Yeah, I
I
hate
don't
it.
like it.
I know
I
what you
know
mean.
it's. I know. Everyone get
Me too.
vaccinated so that we can stop doing this stuff. Let's go.
Hopefully,
Figure it out.
hopefully.
Figure it out. I'm over it. Well, Jaylan, thank you so much for coming on, for letting me interrupt your phone calls.
Thank you. My phone calls are very appreciative.
Glad to be considerate.
Thank you. It feels so much fun, honestly. I think this is gonna be a crazy episode, and I can't wait to hear it,
It's
honestly.
gonna be amazing. People are gonna love it.
Okay, awesome. Cool. It's good.
Jaylan, thank you so much for coming on the show, giving me your time and talking to me. And if you guys want to talk to her more, you should follow her on Twitter. That is at Jaylan Salman, which is different than the spelling of her name. That is JaylanSalman. And you can also find her on theprose.com/Jaylan Salah, and that is JaylanSalah. And as always, follow the show on everything, and I will see you next time. Bye!